right now on 5 on Your Side at 10.
Students sickened. Tonight, the scare at Sumner serving as a warning for marijuana edibles.
Gusty winds and mild weather. How close we come on Friday to the record high temperature and the changes happening this weekend.
Our top story, it was a shocking school fight caught on camera. Tonight, the teacher who says she was attacked by a student is talking only to 5 on Your Side.
I kept thinking, where is somebody to help me? There was nobody to help me.
The Normandy High science teacher has been on unpaid leave for nearly a month as she recovers from her injury and the trauma. Good evening. I'm Mike Bush.
I'm Kelly Jackson. New tonight, 5 on Your Side's Brent Solomon is the only reporter that teacher is opening up to. Brent.
Kelly, Mike, Cheryl Rogers actually retired from teaching back in 2022. She says colleagues begged her to come back into the classroom due to a need for science teachers. She did, only to find herself in a situation she'd never experienced in her entire career. We first shared this video with you last month. A student and teacher involved in a brawl outside a Normandy High classroom.
I was just thinking, the students that were standing around, nobody intervened to help me. Nobody helped me.
For the first time, Cheryl Rogers, a teacher of more than 20 years, is opening up about what happened.
She kept hitting me. And when I fell to the floor, she just kicked me. Still have bruises on both of my legs. The scars on my hands have healed, and I still have headaches.
She says it all started when a student who came to class but then left to cut class eventually came back to retrieve her book bag.
She was already angry, and I just happened to be the target.
I was shocked to see that she was literally being assaulted.
When her significant other, Gregory Stanton, got wind of what happened, he left work. He's been there in the weeks following the situation.
I've seen some changes. She's normally a bubbly, high energy person, not as sharp. As far as if you talk long enough, you'll see that sometimes she's searching for words.
Police have said they would seek criminal charges against the student through St. Louis County juvenile courts. As Rogers fights to get past the trauma, the veteran teacher is still in a state of shock.
I was trained to respect my elders. And I don't think that's going on anymore.
We reached out to Normandy Schools for an update on its investigation. We're waiting to hear back. Loved ones of that teacher have set up a GoFundMe to assist with her medical bills. You can find a link on KSDK.com.
Thank you, Brent. Tonight, a manhunt continues for the man who shot a Metro East police officer. We just checked with Granite City Police. They're still looking for Donald Freeze. Officers were called to a home on Delmar Avenue last night for a disturbance when the shooting happened. Freeze is a convicted felon who has previously been charged with second-degree murder.
Even though he's on parole, probation, whatever, he's not going to adhere to the rules because that's not the way he's structured. That's not the way he thinks.
The officer was shot in the arm, is recovering at home tonight. It is believed Freeze was hit when officers returned fire. If you see him, call 911.
Take a look at the man in this picture. The major case squad says he's a person of interest in a deadly shooting in Cahokia Heights. The victim, Bradford Reedus of Memphis, Tennessee, was found shot inside a home on Mildred Avenue yesterday morning. If you recognize this man, you're asked to call the major case squad. That number is 618-332-4277.
Tonight, a man is dead after being hit by a car in North St. Louis County. It happened about 3 hours ago on New Halls Ferry Road near West Florissant. Police say the man was crossing the road when he was hit. The driver remained on the scene. Tonight, 10 students at Sumner High School are recovering after they suddenly became sick to their stomachs.
School officials say the students ingested gummies that may have contained marijuana. Robert Townsend reports one student is now facing disciplinary action.
About an hour and a half before classes dismissed for the day at Sumner High School, an emergency broke out Wednesday.
But classes went on as normal.
Still, the spokesman for St. Louis Public Schools, police, and fire officials descended on the North St. Louis High School. It's after 4 students were taken to a hospital as a precaution after eating gummies that may have had marijuana in them.
The children who ate them, they became, again, nauseous, didn't feel well. It started with 2, then 2 more.
Sales says 6 other students who ate the edibles complained of stomach pain, were checked out on the school campus and picked up by their parents. The students were sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
I don't know the exact breakdown, but everybody is okay. Everybody is alert, feeling fine. Nobody was badly injured or anything like that.
Of course, a big question is, how did those students get their hands on the gummies in the first place? The school district spokesperson says another student brought those items into this school after reportedly buying them from a nearby convenience store.
Health effects associated with THC can be wide-ranging.
Nicole Dawsey is the executive director of Prevent Ed. The community health agency works to reduce or prevent the harms of alcohol or other drug use through education, intervention, and advocacy.
But if someone has too much of that THC substance, it can really interfere with the body's ability to function. That's not just thinking clearly, but that also affects heart rate, that affects their respiratory, their breathing.
As for the Sumner student, now in hot water,
that student will be dealt with according to the SLPS Code of Conduct.
Robert Townsend, 5 on your side.
A St. Louis jury has found a man guilty of killing his ex-girlfriend and her 2 young daughters. Ronald Marr was convicted in the murders of Kenesha Hemphill and her 8-year-old daughter Journey and 1-year-old baby Jakari. All 3 were found dead, shot to death inside their Dutchtown apartment back in February 2021. A teen is now being charged as an adult in the murder of a man in Keener Plaza. Alfonso Miller was 17 at the time of the shooting last April. He's now charged with first-degree murder in the shooting death of Darius Mullins.
Tonight, a group of St. Louis advocates are back in Washington, D.C. It is their 3rd trip in 6 months to get much-needed help for St. Louisans impacted by nuclear waste.
Educating and pleading for, help from, the government's radioactive waste legacy that's impacted this entire nation.
They're lobbying to get the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, known as RECA, attached to a bill. If passed, it could compensate, or it would compensate, radioactive waste victims. Tomorrow, they will join other advocates across the country on Capitol Hill for a news conference to raise awareness.
Developing tonight, a Chicago judge is allowing a lawsuit to move forward to remove former President Donald Trump from the Illinois ballot. A hearing has been set for next Friday. The lawsuit argues Trump is not eligible for his role in the January 6 Capitol riots. Last week, State Board of Elections voted unanimously to keep him on the ballot, saying they don't have the authority. Tomorrow, the U.S. Supreme Court will begin hearing arguments on a similar case out of Colorado. A hotly contested race for Congress is less than 6 weeks away.
Republican Congressman Mike Bost rallied voters in Albers tonight as he tried to ward off a primary challenge from Darren Bailey. Our political editor, Mark Maxwell, has been covering this contest very closely. Mark.
That's right. Tonight we saw Mike Bost play to his strengths. The Marine veteran on stage at a VFW hall with 2 Texas Republicans highlighting the border and immigration. And you could start to tell that Darren Bailey's negative attacks were getting under his skin.
Primaries are tough.
Congressman Mike Bost defended himself Wednesday night from Darren Bailey's attacks.
My opponent has misled voters on my record since the first day announced.
Bost told a packed VFW hall to check his voting record.
I voted to build a border wall, protect the Second Amendment, and end the woke nonsense in our schools.
The Marine veteran brought a Navy SEAL and Rear Admiral as reinforcements in his primary fight.
If it ain't broke, you don't fix it, right? And this man should not even have an opponent.
2 Texas Republican congressmen backed Bost as a bona fide conservative. Congressman Morgan Luttrell said if Bailey beats Bost,
it would be catastrophic to the party.
Former President Trump's physician and initial pick to lead the VA, Ronnie Jackson, criticized Freedom Caucus member Matt Gaetz, who's backing Bailey.
And it's easy to get up there and be part of the no caucus that says no to everything.
Where does the race go from here?
I don't want to go negative on my opponent. I don't. I know things, but I'm not going to do that.
Bost says Republicans should stay united.
Our true enemy in these races are Joe Biden and the Democrats.
Oh, I'll vote for Mike Boss.
This voter made up her mind after talking to Bailey at a separate event.
And he wasn't really up on it, you know, and I don't know. He's been more an Illinois politician.
I think he's a fine gentleman, but he doesn't have the experience and the knowledge of the bureaucracy, especially the Veterans Administration, that Mike has.
Retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Phil Henning feels as the head of the VA committee, Boss has his back.
Mike has taken personal charge of the committee, and they have revamped the claim system, and the claim system for disability has been sped up quite a bit in the last 8 years.
Boss warned voters Bailey would essentially become an outgrowth of the Matt Gaetz wing of the GOP, more interested in disruption, popularity, or fighting over the speaker's gavel than doing work. And you could see some of those raw divisions still left over from the House on display tonight when Congressman Ronnie Jackson suggested that fellow Texan Chip Roy might need a code red beatdown like in that movie A Few Good Men, perhaps not what voters had in mind when they wanted to send a fighter to Congress.
Inflation is taxing on your budget. Now some tax relief is on the way.
You don't feel the pinch of more tax dollars flowing out of your income.
The 3 ways Uncle Sam is helping you make ends meet. A real-life Spider-Man spotted on the Las Vegas Sphere.
This was probably the quickest climb I've seen him do.
The cause behind the superhero stunt that has him in trouble with the law.
Windy and warm may transition to wet and white by early next week. We're tracking the big changes ahead this weekend.
We have some breaking news. A nearly 24-hour-long manhunt for the man accused of shooting a Granite City police officer is over. Just minutes ago, authorities tell us Donald Freeze was arrested in Southern Illinois. We'll bring you more developments on the 5 on Your Side app and, of course, on Today in St. Louis. That begins at 4 a.m.
And developing tonight, the Pentagon says a U.S. drone strike in Baghdad killed a high-ranking Shiite militia commander. Officials say he is responsible for the attack that killed 3 U.S. soldiers in Jordan. This is the latest in a series of retaliatory strikes on Iran-backed militias for recent attacks on American forces in the Mideast. Tonight, the so-called pro-life Spider-Man is in jail after climbing atop the Las Vegas Sphere. The professional climber is known for similar stunts to promote his anti-abortion cause.
He doesn't use any ropes, doesn't use any equipment. It's just free solo, and he puts himself at risk. So you don't want to put yourself at risk for no reason at all.
The stunt took place as police were holding a news conference on Super Bowl security. No word on what charges the climber will face.
New questions tonight surrounding studies on the abortion pill mifepristone. A medical journal has retracted 3 studies that claim to show the harms of mifepristone. 2 of those studies were cited in a pivotal Texas court ruling that has threatened access to the pill. Sage publications say the findings in those studies were based on unreliable data, and researchers had a conflict of interest with the anti-abortion movement. The U.S. Supreme Court is expected to hear arguments on mifepristone next month. The FDA now believes it knows the source of lead-contaminated applesauce pouches. Officials have tracked it down to a single cinnamon processor in Ecuador. The pouches were sold at Schnucks and other retailers. Hundreds of kids have become sick, including some cases in Missouri and in Illinois.
A consumer alert tonight for Spire customers about a phone scam. The utility warns people are posing as Spire representatives and calling customers to demand payment. Spire reminds you it never asks for payment through cash apps. You're asked to hang up and call the utility at 800-887-4173 to report it. Payments can be made 24/7 by phone or on Spire's website.
When we hear the word inflation, we don't typically think of how it will help us make ends meet.
As Michelle Lee reports, there are ways inflation is helping us on our taxes and on our paychecks.
We've all been painfully aware of inflation, but this tax season, there are some bright spots, starting with our paychecks.
So it's a nice surprise, hopefully.
Lei Dan is a financial advisor in St. Louis. She says we're seeing a bit more in our checks because the IRS has adjusted for inflation.
So hopefully, you don't feel the pinch of more tax dollars flowing out of your income, so you can keep more or the similar amount that you can buy your eggs, buy your milk, using it in your everyday life.
While it's not a raise, it is significant.
They adjust certain tax benefits every year, but for tax year 2023 is the most they've been adjusted up in decades.
Your tax refund could also be bigger. For example, in 2022, a person filing as a single earner between about $41,000 and $89,000 paid about 22% of their income to the IRS. But in 2023, that tax bracket bumped it up to a little more than $44,000 to about $95,000. The math there is about a 7% change. Now, there are other differences, like more money for energy efficiency improvements to your home and bigger tax credits for families.
If you're a family with 3 kids, it's $7,430.
And we can look forward to some changes all year long.
With inflation, a lot of the maximum for the retirement accounts actually have increased as well.
The standard deduction is also going up, which is a benefit for taxpayers. Some things to note when you're making every cent count.
So that doesn't mean you can buy more things. You're just keeping up with inflation.
For Making Ends Meet, Michelle Lee, 5 on your side.
Another 7-figure donation this year from an annual event in St. Louis that gives back to our fallen and injured first responders and their families. Today, the Budweiser Guns and Hoses announced an astounding $1 million donation to the Backstoppers. This is the 3rd consecutive year the organization has donated $1 million to the group that supports families of the men and women killed in the line of duty. Much of the money comes from you, St. Louis, and the proceeds from the popular Guns and Hoses event held every November.
The money just doesn't fall out of the sky. We have to work for it. And thanks to the generosity of the community, they're tremendous. And of course, the Guns and Hoses organization, 36 years, $12 million. What can I say?
The Backstoppers is currently helping 90 families and 70 children. The group has been a vital part of the community since 1987.
Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell joins us now with that weather first forecast, and our spring-like temperatures are expected to continue for the next couple of days, right, Scott?
It sure looks like we have above average temperatures even through the weekend, though the weekend will feature a bit of a cool down for us. Looking out at Lambert right now, looking at Terminal 2, there's your southwest plains. They're all dark. Yeah, they've all pulled in. Every flight that was arriving came in, ready to go, cleaning the planes up, and they'll be ready to get out of here first thing tomorrow morning without any big problems. Temperatures in the 40s in some of the outlying areas, especially on the Illinois side of the river where it's been a little bit cooler. We're low 50s across much of the metro right now, and it's still in the mid 50s, close to 60 degrees from Tulsa back to Kansas City. That warmer air pretty much stuck over our region as we head through the next couple of days. 51 at Lambert right now. That south to southeast wind at 11 miles per hour. That will keep things stirred up tonight, which means we're not going to be all that cold starting out tomorrow. This morning we were at 34. We made it back to 60 degrees. Those high clouds are rather thick across the region at this point, and we'll continue to see them streaming in as our temperatures settle back in the 40s. They really don't drop a whole lot more. And those winds actually get a little gusty here through the overnight hours. That's going to be one of the factors for tomorrow. Windy conditions around St. Louis. Warm weather here on Friday. We say warm because some of us might slip just above 70 degrees. There's a limited rain chance over the next couple of days. Then it gets cooler over the weekend. So how is all this going to happen? We've been tracking the weather out to our west, and that wave that came on earlier this week out of California and out of the Pacific is now pushing its way into our region. It brought us the high clouds today, but we're still fairly dry, and we're not going to be able to squeeze any rain out of this as we head into tomorrow around St. Louis. There's a very small chance there might be a shower southeast of town, but odds are it's just windy through the day tomorrow and relatively mild. Temperatures by late in the day go back into the low, perhaps even some mid-60s. We also have strong winds tomorrow at times. Those wind gusts 35 to 40 miles per hour taking us through tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening. Then later tomorrow night, the strongest winds will push away. Going into Friday, we have another system that'll try to sag in here. It looks like the rain chances are going to be really limited with this as well. Maybe overnight Friday we'll get a brief shower, but we're close to 70 or above 70 as we head into your Friday. Saturday, of course, Mardi Gras parade. Temperatures will be around 50 about the time the parade steps off. And you look at the next several days, there's another system coming as we go into Sunday night and Monday. We're tracking it. It looks intriguing, but the one thing that we've said all winter long with every weather system that might produce some type of wintry precipitation, where's the cold air?
Right.
And you don't really see it on that 10-day forecast. So while there's a chance we might see a few wet snowflakes Sunday night and Monday, it is not at all a big chance at this point.
All right. Scott, thanks.
Frank is next with sports.
Well, we have good news and bad news for Mizzou and SLU tonight. You'll have to stick around to find out who's feeling good and who's not.
This 5 on Your Side Sports Report is sponsored by Telly Tire and Auto Centers, driving your way since 1942.
Only one men's basketball team in the SEC in the last 70 years has gone through the conference season without a win. That was Vandy in 2019. After tonight, Mizzou is still on track to join them. Now, it didn't help that one of their best players, Sean East, could not play against Texas A&M because of a knee injury. Now, this is kind of cool. Mabor Majak with his first bucket of the season on that emphatic slam. Then the Aggies went on a roll. Henry Coleman III, the bucket and foul right there. And here's the thing, Mizzou's playing without 4 players. They haven't won a game this year, and they're still scrapping and hustling, going after everything. Boots Radford didn't care. He pops a 3. Mizzou loses 79-60, 0-10 in the SEC. So beating a 2-7 LaSalle team in front of a crowd of about 1,200 in a high school gym is not going to change the narrative on the Billiken season. But I got to tell you, SLU looked like Villanova in the 1985 title game shooting the ball. Where has this been? Suffocating defense early, and Kellen Thames will throw it down. This team had some togetherness tonight, and it helped they couldn't miss. Sincere Parker, end of the half for 3, got it. Now, LaSalle went into the locker room down 51-39. SLU would not let up in the second half. This is Hargrove draining a 3, and then Parker just would not let up. He finished with 33 points in 18 minutes. The 28-day, 6-game losing streak is over. SLU wins 102-84, the most points ever for the Bills in an A10 game. The SLU women hosted Education Day at Shavitz Arena. Students from around the area came to yell and cheer on SLU against a tough VCU squad. That's Markavia Shavers with a nice spin move. Brooklyn Gray will get the bucket and foul as SLU led after the first quarter. VCU won 76-67. Let's head to Chaminade for some high school hoops. Ryan Johnson and Cardinal Ritter paying a visit. Ritter rocked it. Quentin Parker, look at that vertical right there. Chaminade right back. That is Jahaidi's little son, Jamison Williams, not so little. But the Lions roared. Derek Reeves in the lane. Cardinal Ritter stunned Chaminade 61-39. So the Blues will hold their first practice after the All-Star break tomorrow. Many of them will come back with better tans than George Hamilton. And I'm sure they've heard this, but it became official tonight.
On behalf of the Chicago Blackhawks, we're very excited to announce that we'll be hosting the 2025 NHL Winter Classic versus the St. Louis Blues here at Wrigley Field. So,
All right. Meanwhile, Rick Zombo and Lindenwood's hockey program have had an interesting season. In only their second year in D1, they've managed 4 ties against top 20 teams. Played well at times, but the overall record, 5-15-4. I asked Coach if he would consider playing an easier schedule.
So for me, it's just not selling Lindenwood, it's selling Division I hockey. I mean, you have to have the branded teams, the good teams. We're centrally located. We have a facility that they want to come to. It's just a matter of building those relationships, and to play the best is what it's all about.
This 5 on Your Side St. Louis City SC coverage is sponsored by Together Credit Union.
City FC facing LAFC today in California, and Kyle Hebert will score his first goal of the season. City wins 1-0. They are now 2-0 in the preseason. Be with us for a special Black History Month Sports Plus, a look at Kurt Flood's life, Jackie Joyner's incredible work of helping kids at her center, and a list of the 10 most prominent African-American sports figures in our town. And that will do it in sports.
All right, Frank, thanks.
All right, don't waste your money this Valentine's Day. The top 5 gifts that could turn things sour with your sweetheart.
ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers are teaming up for a new sports streaming service. It's going to include games from the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, NASCAR, golf, and college sports. Subscribers will be able to bundle the service with Disney Plus, Hulu, and Max. It's going to launch in the fall. No word yet on how much it's going to cost.
All right, Valentine's Day, a week from today. People are expected to spend an average of $185 on their sweetheart. Men will spend almost twice as much as women, as they should.
What?
A Wallet Hub survey asked, what was the least desired Valentine's Day gift? 34% said furry handcuffs. 28%, flowers. 22%, they don't want a heart-shaped box of chocolates. A love coupon book came in at 18%, and 14% said they don't want to be serenaded.
No? Strangers in the night. No, nothing like that.
What about my blender idea? A nice blender.
Last year you got Monica vacuum, right?
No and no.
I did not.
There you have it. 5 on your side at 10. The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon is next.
Be sure to start your day with Today in St. Louis, and that starts at 4 a.m. Have a great tomorrow.